Ladies and gentlemen, Two Dudes Talk Music in conjunction with E. Brown Industries and Big Jerry Burger brings to you everybody's new favourite game show, Get in the Bin. Now, let's go to our host, Reverend Raph and the beer buddy, Kyle. Welcome back, all you amazing people, to Two Dudes Talk Music. Today's segment is Get in the Bin. We are continuing our coverage of the Metal to the Max Festival, which is taking place at the Mad Max 2 compound out near Broken Hill on the 5th and 6th of October. Links for tickets is going to be in the thing. We have Travis from WITCHGRINDER with us today, continuing on from our recent discussions with him on the podcast. And we are going to go through this whole segment of Get in the Bin, where we ask our very, very esteemed guest if they had phenomenal cosmic powers and could snap their fingers and eliminate or change any three things about the music business, what would they be and why? Let's get into it. What would your first one be?
Well, I didn't want to overthink this when you did mention that you were going to have three questions about this, because there is a lot of things I'd like to eliminate that are very toxic parts of it. But the first one I was thinking that is creeping into the music at the moment is venues are asking bands to pay up for the public liability insurance.
What?
We've had a few venues
that is a new one.
Yeah.
So that's why they took out the merch thing, because they'll just sting you for the public liability now instead, eh?
Well, because that was going to be my second one, but thanks. But the venues, like what I'm not, so the public liability, if people like don't know who are listening, venues are meant to supply that when you turn up, so if anyone gets hurt and so forth. But if it's a live music venue, and depending on the size of it, it's really not the venue's fault in a way, because the insurance levels are just skyrocketed for that. Like they've almost tripled, probably even more. So they've had to find a way to do it, but they're bringing that into the bands, or possibly the promoters. I'm not sure, but it's just it's another tax off what bands are already getting, and it's so hard for everyone knows. Everyone's pretty much who's a musician is a struggling musician, really. And I guess everyone is quick to throw this inflation around and all this kind of crap, but at the end of the day, it's like everyone's struggling, and now you're putting who is struggling the most is the bands who are frigging coming to your venues to play and bring people in through the door who are going to drinking your beer and paying. They're already taking a venue card, doing all these things. So there is a couple of venues. I'm not going to name any out because I understand why they're trying to do it. They just want to keep the live bands in there. So I do get it, but I'm just thinking if there's another way that they could go about doing that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You pay the public liability. That's fine. I'll do that. I want 10% of the bar sales for the day, or 20% of the bar sales for the day. So I can recoup. I'm bringing you the people. They're coming here to see us. You got to give me a cut of that pie if you're going to ask me for this.
Well,
that seems like a fair trade.
Yeah, that's where I won't use this as one now because I've got plenty of things I want to get rid of out of the industry. But that's like the merch cuts, where venues were taking a merch cut. That's just fucking ridiculous. Get in the bin.
You mentioned the inflation thing there, right? Something that I think is really important to remember. I can remember when Tensions Arise was first starting out doing shows in 2010, and we would be, tickets would be $15 or $20, right, for the show. Door fee would be $15 or $20. That's what's getting charged as a door fee now at a lot of gigs still.
That's one thing that seems to not inflate.
That hasn't gone up. Well, the amount of money bands are getting paid hasn't gone up with inflation. The money that bands are making off their music has not gone up with inflation. It's gone down because of streaming services and these things paying fuck all for streams. Musicians are not getting what musicians are getting paid is not going up with inflation. So as you say, it's not really reasonable to put to claim inflation and put costs on us under the basis of inflation when what we're getting isn't going up in line with inflation or anything close.
Well, that is the thing. Nothing that the bands aren't throwing any extra. Well, they might t-shirts, if their merch might have gone up like a little bit, but it's like nothing. Like I think we put up our t-shirts maybe $5 each, and that's only because they literally going to get your merch made. Just
it costs you more to get them made. That's it. You're not doing it to make more money out of people.
But bands have literally not changed their, any growth to there's no such thing. It just hasn't changed what a band does.
No.
With those getting in the.
And this is where I think bands can. There's opportunities for bands to explore. I think more bands. It's a tricky thing, right? Because I think bands can probably look at something like Patreon, for example, as a potential thing. Like if you have a lot of behind the scenes stuff, if you have a very active fan base, you can potentially mobilize that with, okay, if they're really engaged with us and a lot of what we're doing, maybe we could set up a Patreon page. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount. It can be a small thing, but that way you can say to the fans, you can be like, look, it's not cheap for us to do all this stuff. If you really, really want to support what we're doing, this is an avenue that's there for you. I know some bands have done that with varying degrees of success. Because it really depends on how active and engaged your fan base is.
I want to say Chimeria. I think Chimeria did that. No, Chimeria. Chimeria. They're in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how they paid for one of their tours. They have their own Patreon. They do all this stuff behind the scenes.
A lot of bands have gone into that, and I really think good on them for doing that. But as you said, it's for people. Like it's more in a way almost for it's an established band's option.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
They already need that fan base, so that there's that where that lies that problem. They can't ask people to throw in like young bands who are just starting out, or not even young bands, just a new band starting out. They're not going to have 20. You'd hope that they could get 20 of their mates together to throw in a couple of bucks a week or whatever to help out with some of the bills, but. Yeah, it's very hard, but there are little things like, with Spotify and things like that, where you're not making, that money like you used to with things, but it's kind of pushing the artist to be a bit more creative. I think
it is.
Even like people still want. What I was very surprised with when I went on tour for the recent album, a lot of people wanted a physical CD. We went through boxes and boxes of CDs. We only got one to start with. We got on the road. We thought nothing of it, and everyone was asking for one at the show. And I asked a few people, "What do you have a CD player at home?" I had to ask, and a few people were like, "No, I don't, but I've still got my CD collection." And a lot of people just wanted it signed, so they had something physical. And we could sign it for them.
So CDs are almost becoming a merch item the same way vinyls were for a while.
Oh, yeah. Vinyl was definitely there, but they had a revival there, and it's still kind of sitting around the same thing. But I think, people are realizing, well, CDs, the whole reason they were compact disc, it was like a smaller compact. You still got the artwork and all that. It's easy to chuck in your pocket. Like even cassettes have kind of got their little... like a little dabbling kind of around. Like I go to some gigs and there's some underground metal bands and stoner rock bands and stuff like that in Melbourne where they don't even have their stuff up on streaming services. The only way you can buy anything is their cassette. You go to their gig and you buy a cassette, and it's like that's the only recording we've got. We're not, that's just the way they want to do it. Yeah.
There you go. So I guess it works.
Yeah, I don't know if it works. Obviously don't know how much money they're seeing, but I can't think it's much if it's that. But
well, it's got to be better than the 0.005 cents that you get off Spotify.
Yeah, that's. I'm waiting for the day they bring in some kind of international law, or they need to work this out.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you even have a look at something like Twitch, right? Twitch is 50-50.
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
Look, 50. Like anytime someone donates or whatever, it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Like you use their platform
with like Spotify. I think it's. I don't know if they do different deals with different bands or.
Oh, they 100% they do.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's rough.
That's the three things. You know, he asked me to have three things. We've literally gone over.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot already.
Yeah. It was the public liability, Spotify, and merch cuts were my three major things without being too bitchy about everything and telling everything to get in the bin. But there is a bunch of like,
and we talk about like the double-edged sword that is streaming services all the time on the podcast, like ad nauseum. So I'm not going to repeat too many of the points that we cover a lot because I'm sure our fans are sick of hearing us say the same things over and over again about them. But we are 100% in agreement with
it's a love-hate relationship.
It is. Like, it's allowed us to discover so much, but it really, if Spotify is a business model,
fuck for the artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like we were saying, if there was a 50-50 split or something, or some law that just comes in and can fix it. I don't know how, but
they were trying to pass one in America. They were trying to pass one in America that was like a minimum, that was going to be like drastically increase the minimum payment. I'm sure of it. Hold up.
I think
Spotify.
Look, I just, someone's sitting up there like, where's all this money going? Put it that way. If they're only paying these artists this much, where's it all going?
And not just that. There's a middleman involved when you put everything. You should put everything on Spotify as well. You got to pay a publisher.
Spotify's still. I know it's a massive business, but it's friggin' huge. But there can't be that many friggin' people working out of the how much music content they've got on there, and how many hours of work and everything that was put together to.
The funny part is that the labels have massive investment in Spotify, so it's all just going back to them anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, so there was a bill that was introduced in the US House of Representatives earlier this year to try and legislation proposes an establishment of a new. Okay, so not quite the one I was thinking of, but they were talking about, at least in the US, introducing like something they called a royalty fund that would pay artists directly and bypass the labels. So
yeah.
But something, I don't know. It's
that's the thing, WITCHGRINDER, with our recent album, we didn't grab a label. We were offered a couple of labels to bring it out through, but they didn't offer anything that we couldn't really do ourselves. It was a little bit, but it wasn't a hell of a lot. So I don't understand why us being just putting that release out as independent, why my money that we're earning for our streams is going to these record companies that we're not signed to. That's just yeah. I'm going to get mad talking about this stuff. You see what you're doing.
Well, that's the whole point. Look. The segment originally, was called the Fuck Off Files. So that was the original.
I do like Get in the Bin though.
Yeah, well, we called it the Fuck Off Files when we would be doing these live on Twitch, and then when we moved it over to doing it on YouTube, we're like, we might need a slightly more YouTube friendly name for the segment. So Get in the Bin became the new thing. Well, there you have it. So bands being forced to pay public liability insurance, venues taking cuts on merch, and streaming services. Spotify.
I think it's all just to do with greediness there. The real major thing here is greediness, where these bands and artists like myself are just not getting.
It's exploiting.
It's a victim thing.
It's exploitation of the workforce is what it is. It's exploiting the ground level workers that have put in, we as musicians have put in lifetimes of work into what we're doing. It's not just oh, it cost us $5,000 to record the album or whatever it costs, right? Like it's the lifetime of hours, of practice. It's the money
It's
that's been put
everything.
into equipment over the years, and lessons, and the emotional investment in the music, and just all of that stuff that we've done.
Whoa. Where'd that go?
All that stuff over the course of our lives, like it's why does it, what's the story like that? Why does it cost a photographer $2,000 for a photo? Why does it cost $2,000 for a photographer to do a shoot? It's because it took them a lifetime to learn how to do that. Anyone can get a camera and take pictures, all right, but can you take them as good as someone that spent a lifetime learning how to do it?
Do it.
So yeah, look, that's fair enough. Let's that's
I love it.
That's all for Get in the Bin for this time, and that's the last we're going to have from WITCHGRINDER for this week. So thank you very, very much, mate, for spending this time with us today. We really appreciate that. As we said, go out and follow WITCHGRINDER on everything. If you've had a good time with us today, tickle those buttons that make YouTube happy, and consider checking out our Patreon. Go and get your tickets for Metal to the Max while they still last, because if you're too late, then you are going to seriously miss out. And we will catch all you guys on the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
I'll do the peace.